just briefly summarize yesterday's session. Although this task we usually give to the participant, but still I think you people also had to fill that form yesterday. So I'll do this task. So yesterday we discussed regarding the two basic concepts, and I think there was some confusion regarding that basic concept, which was the type of scale. So there is a measurement theory, and in that measurement theory, there are two types of construct. Construct is same, but we define as a causal, formative, and the first one is the reflective. So reflective is when the underlying construct as depression is affecting all the items you have chosen. That is the reflective. That means the items are reflecting the construct. The other concept was the causal formative. Causal formative is when you take different indices and you make a composite index, like multi-item index. That is known as the causal formative. So in causal formative, there may or may not be association or correlation between the individual item. But in case of the reflective, a correlation between the individual item. Like we discussed socio-demographic variable. That is a construct, but the type of construct is not a reflective. The type of construct is the composite index or the causal formative. And the factor analysis, confirmatory factor analysis, and reliability, generally we perform for a reflective type of scale. Yesterday, Dr. Nitin was also discussing the knowledge, and many times we assess the knowledge score, we assess the attitude score, and then we assess the practice scores also. So those items are there. Again, based on those items, that we call as a causal formative, because actually that is not reflecting any underlying construct. That is just a similar looking items or similar looking questions which are measuring, and that is because that is measuring the underlying construct, which is the causal formative. So basically this workshop which we have focused, that is in mostly it will deal with the reflective type of scale. The other type of scale, which is the causal formative, that is not a part of this particular workshop. So that we may talk about that causal formative for half an hour, what to do with those things. Like, but again, the basic principle is same, like even the designing questionnaire, selecting the item, selecting the responses. And then we learned about what is the difference between if you select a yes, no type of response, then and if you select a Likert type of item, then what is the advantage with the Likert type of item? What is the disadvantage of a binary response like yes, no, maybe agree, disagree? So you don't have a range. And again, then you have to treat that data like a categorical. Whereas all reliability analysis, factor analysis, that is done on a continuous scale. Usually that is done on a continuous scale, and continuous scale is possible only when you take the responses in Likert item. But again, Likert also scale, we discourage taking 3-point Likert. It should be at least 4, 5, 7, 9, and 11. And we discussed regarding the intellect also, that if the intellect is low, and if you give them the, the 5-point item scale, maybe the 7-point, then it is difficult for them to, if you are giving it as a self-administered questionnaire. So we discussed the thing like who should be there in the expert committee. And again, I forgot to mention this, that whenever you whenever you talk to expert regarding the formation of item or regarding even the validation, which we'll see later, it is not very easy to find an expert. And if someone agrees being a part of that expert committee, it is difficult to take the responses. You have to, because we face this in the formation of a blueprint. We developed a blueprint where we had to do a content validity and testing, and we have invited experts, and then we have to call them repeatedly. We have to follow them up for filling the responses. And then there will be some loss to follow up also. There will be few people who will not respond over mail. So those issues are still there in India. especially because here we are not that much, into all these type of tasks. So yes, that is maybe a problem, especially in this setting where we are here. But again, with this more connectivity, you can have people across India also who can be a part of your project, especially regarding the scale development, because scale development needs even the validation needs expert at every level. So then we discussed regarding the it's better if you have any questionnaire which is already available. It's better that you should take that questionnaire and you should modify it. And we have seen the example of that STARS questionnaire, that is the statistical anxiety rating questionnaires yesterday, and you all did a wonderful job of deleting few items which were not pertinent according to you. And then we have compiled all that and we have shared, and we have got I think 64 responses. We need more, but still we'll do that analysis in the 64 responses. So what we did, so we have taken, like, if my construct, if I have to measure the statistical anxiety, so already there are 3-4 tools, but I have decided that I will take that 51 item tool and I will modify it in my context. So I have hired experts. So you all were expert for my questionnaire. So you all modified that, you have submitted that. I have made a revised version of that questionnaire. Now I will do the reliability testing of that questionnaire. So step would be like, again, it should be given to some other expert, but since that step we are missing. There was a question yesterday regarding what is the difference between a pilot testing and a pre-testing. Remember? So I said that a pilot testing, so I said that both are same, but it is not the case. And I will just, before I go to the reliability, I'll show you what is the difference between the pilot testing and a pre-testing. There is I will share that article also, because we went and we have seen that article where they have briefly summed up the difference between the pre-testing and pilot testing. So many times we also get confused with the term, but coming to the pre-testing. So what is a pre-testing? Generally, pre-testing is done to validate and to make your scale more reliable. So actually the aim of the pre-testing is to reduce the measurement error. Again, how will we reduce the measurement error? If you are doing the validation study and reliability study, it is a part of pre-testing. Okay. So like if you are checking the Cronbach alpha, if you are doing the this content validity, measuring the content validity index or measuring the content validity ratios, these are the two indicators we'll see in the content validation. So we will perform the reliability and the validity studies on few number of subjects. Generally, we take 12 to 50 range is that. In that, we also assess the respondent burden. What do we understand by respondent burden? If the questionnaire is very long, then definitely you will feel like, the question is too long. It is taking a lot of time to fill. So that is the respondent burden. So you have to, but again, we talk and we will see today also, if you increase the number of items, the reliability increases. So there should be a balance between the respondent burden and the number of items which you keep in your study. But again, we always say that don't think too much of respondent burden, because if you are concerned about the respondent burden and if you reduce the number of items, only taking that point into consideration, then your scale, the validity and the reliability of your scale is questionable. So you have to make a balance between the respondent burden and the loss of reliability and validity of a scale. Again, in the pre-testing, you understand the interpretation problem from respondents. So what do we mean by interpretation problem? So like, for example, if I say a word meaning, maybe there is a different meaning of, so can anyone give me the example how a word in English may be taken at one place differently and the other place as a different thing? Yes, anyone from the participant? So like I will say that I am too sick. I am feeling sick. Okay, if I say this sentence. So there can be two meaning of that. Sick means I'm not well. Okay. And the other would be like we say now, like it is too sick to see that like disgust. So sick can have two meaning. One meaning can have as a sickness means not well, and the other is like how sick the person was. The person was very sick means that disgust or maybe a very weird sort of thing. So we express that way also. So interpretation, you have to understand in the sample where you are going to administer that, how the respondents are taking that word. So yesterday, remember, we did that translation thing. We converted the Hindi to English to Hindi, and again the back translation. So after you have got that Hindi or any local version, you need to go and talk to the respondents giving that questionnaire. And that's why interviews are also a part of pre-testing. Whereas in pilot testing, you don't perform interviews. So maybe you perform the cognitive interview, you do the individual briefing and debriefing also to understand the problem of interpretation from respondent. Yes, Shruti has written cool. So very true. Cool means, somebody may say that cool means very happening and very hip and advanced. And somebody may say that cool means like cold. Okay. So again, sweet. So every word has got different meaning to different persons, especially because all these scales, many times you made these scales for a self-administered scale. So that's why interpretation should be assessed how the respondents are inferring about the questions. And then those are the subjective ways, again, the reliability studies and the validity studies that you perform, that is a part of the pre-testing. And you assess the response latency also. What is response latency? How much time the individual is taking in answering the question. And is any particular item is giving too much stress to the respondent to think? So that you assess the response latency. That is again a part of the interview. You ask from the respondents. And this pre-testing is done on two set of individual. You can get it done from the experts also. And you can get it done from the patients also. So what will happen if you don't do the pre-testing? So pre-testing is very, very, very essential. Even if you do it on single individual, that is okay. But don't administer any questionnaire without pre-testing, because it is a potential threat. You will complete all the data, this thing, and you will not get anything. So recently we got a few data where the individual has completed, I think 600 to 700 data. And there was a fallacy with the tool, with the questionnaire. It was not clear. So we always say that if you collect a bad data or a garbage, then how much statistical tool you apply, you are not going to get the result. So it is a potential threat to the accuracy of instruments. So please don't think that pre-testing is a waste of time. So it is as needed as a conduction of the study. And again, I said that rule of thumb is that you do it on 12 to 50 individual, the pre-testing part. And again, the type of pre-testing can be expert-driven and respondent-driven. Expert-driven means you give that tool to a group of experts, and again, you give it to the respondent also. So both will check regarding the response, regarding the interpretation, regarding the number of items. Okay. So this is regarding the pre-testing. So are you clear regarding pre-testing? So always, whenever we are performing validation study, reliability study, interpretation problem, and then latency of the response, these things come under the pre-testing. Now, what is pilot testing? So basically, pilot testing is known as the feasibility study. Feasibility study means you have formed a project, but you don't know when you are going to roll it out, is it feasible or not in context of logistics, in context of resources, maybe in context of administrative procedure. Like the author, we have shared two books with you. One book of Sage, which is written by Robert, and the other book is of Norman. Okay, so whenever you get time, try to read in your free time these books. And the author has given a very good example that they have planned out a study on migrants. Like in every city, you will see that there is a problem of migrant. So they had to, and in the migrant, especially in the roadside, you will see that in Patna also, and everywhere you will see a roadside along the park, a lot of migrants are residing, and they had to no measure the perception of the health services which are available. So when that news came into the newspaper, because many times you will see that media and the other people are also there, that some study is going on, people are coming and taking the interview, so that got published in newspaper, and then the high court or they ordered the removal of that particular cluster from that area. So then the study was, then they did not get approval for the other part, because from the start only that colony, it was removed. So the author said that you should see the feasibility. You have planned everything out, and then you will see that it is not possible. So I'll give you one example. We were conducting a qualitative study on the uptake of vaccine of respiratory syncytial virus, and we planned of FGD initially. But when we, as a part of pilot testing, when we went and tried to conduct the FGD in the PHCs, it was not possible, because it turned out to be a group interview rather than FGD. And we were not able to find a suitable place for FGD, a big place where there is no noise. All of you who have any idea of qualitative, maybe you may understand my saying that what I am saying, that in FGD, all those logistics are needed. Then we planned that it is not feasible to do a FGD in a PHC setting. So then we have converted all the FGD to the in-depth interview. So that was a feasibility study, or the pilot testing of the overall study, which we tried in the field. So that's the difference between the pilot testing and the pre-testing. So pre-testing is basically for the tool. Pre-testing is generally for the tool, and pilot testing is the overall study procedure. And even you do check some part of interview, you do a little bit of coding and analysis also. Everything is rehearsed before you actually go to the field. Like if any problem arises, then you may change your style of conduction, or if any other administrative procedural thing is needed, then you may take that. So that's the difference between the pre-testing and pilot testing. So I hope, is it clear to all of you? Now, what is a pre-testing and what is a pilot testing? Any responses? Dr. Shamshad, can you show me one new message is there. So Pavni is writing, ma'am, the terms pre-testing are too different in only observational or applies to analytical. It is applied to all the type of studies, not only in analytical. Means like you see for the randomization also, you try to do the randomization, because analytical maybe or experimental, when you have got this thing, like in cohort, you are saying about case control and cohort also. So analytical is generally those type of studies. So that time, if you are doing a record based, definitely you should do some record checking. Like many times we do but we see the type of record now, what are the records available, and because before you make a research question, you see all the records, the availability of the data. Because in the analytical, in case control, and you see the control also. So yes, you make the protocol, and then you see whether you will get it or not. And then on a subset, again the pilot testing is again done on 10 to 12 patients. Generally, these are more common in field-based studies also, or a large setup. A small study, which is an institutional-based study, you can do on like 8 to 10 people also. That only suggests you any change in the modification which is required, and then you roll out the actual study. So pre-testing to make methodology and results strong, and pilot testing is actually possible. So yes, that's why the name of the pilot is the feasibility study. The pilot is a feasibility study. So you see whether it is possible in your situation, or is it possible in your context? And not because but if you are very realistic in making a project, you do everything, assess everything beforehand, and then you are making a project, then this pilot testing, and many people what they do, like we did one project with MSF. So what they did, they started the actual project, and they did not take the initial few data, like 10 to 12 data. They did not include it in the analysis because they took that 12 data as a part of the pilot testing. So you may start it and then you don't include those individuals. You may plan later whether to include those individuals in your study or not. So who will be the participant in pre-testing and pilot testing? So I said, Vishwanath, that pre-testing is done in two groups of people, expert-driven and respondent-driven, but those will be different. And you are not going to include those individuals as a part of the analysis. They will be the study, but definitely they will be the study participant. Not the normal population. Depend if it is analytical, and if you are withdrawing a control from the normal population, then you need to do it on the normal population. So tool which you have designed and how you have formed that is the that is going to, it is the same thing. We said now that it is the rehearsed, it is rehearsed. So in rehearsal, you have got everything. So if the population in your study, if you need to take samples from the population, your pilot should also have the sample from the population. If not, if cases, then it should have the cases. And for the pre-testing, definitely again, the respondent. I've said two things, expert and respondent. So respondent, who will be the respondent of your tool? So if they are patients, definitely you are going to take those. If they are students, you are going to take students as a part of the pre-test. So the actual sampling population which you have defined in your project, you are going to take those individuals. Okay. So anything else in this, on this part? Okay. Then I'll go back to the reliability. So reliability. Before we start, you just see this. We have shown this video in many.
What's this time going? This time, my goodness. Here comes Colleen. No, it's not. It's skipping. It's stuck.
Okay, so one more question, who can be the experts? So Shamima, we discussed this yesterday also. It depends on the type of your study. So like, can you tell me any type? Then I will be like, I'll give you example. In my case, we had a this thing. We formed a blueprint for our department. So we have hired only the community medicine people as a part of that blueprinting. So though that was very clear cut, because there was no construct, and it was only the content validity which we had to check. So for content validity, the expert are generally the subject experts in medical sciences. But for the any construct, so construct, like if you want to measure empathy. So if you want to measure empathy, first you will see who are the people who have worked on that area. And not only in the medical science, maybe empathy in general people, maybe empathy in other population, empathy towards migrant, empathy in general. So like there was a project of empathy, measuring empathy in the medical students. So if there are many scales available, but for medical students, maybe you may need to change it or modify it a little bit. So you will talk to, you may call all the experts who are working in that field, a qualitative researcher who has worked in the field of empathy, maybe a sociologist or a psychologist who has worked in the field. So how will you search? So basically you search and you talk to people, you see the articles, published article, the books which are there, and then you talk to your colleague who are working. And so it apart, you have people from the behavioral science also. That includes the sociologist, if it is a social theory, if it a psychologist, if it is related to any construct related to psychology, and the behavior change, the communication people, the language, because you need to do that language, Hindi to English or maybe the local language. Then the clinicians, the experts means subject experts. If it is medical students, like maybe you can have people, maybe UG teaching, who are teaching the undergraduate students. So subject experts, and then students also. Like if you want to measure empathy in medical students, you will take few medical students also, because whenever you will have something, they will also help you, because you have to do remember we talked regarding how to develop a scale. Who are the people with whom you will interview? Like maybe, so they will be the patients, they will be the expert, there can be FGD, there can be key informant interview, and then clinical observations also. So all those are the people who will be the expert. But again, I said that's a little Herculean task, because we also tried, and we were trying to make an expert group for scale validation, but we were trying, and recently we found out a few experts. So it's a matter of like clicking. You try, you call them out, you mail them a project. And then for involvement also, I said that you have to do a lot of effort, because if it's a follow-up study, you need to constantly make a reminder, call them, and then give some sort of this thing also, like what is their stake, how they will be benefited in being a part of your study. All those things should be there. So, so should we move ahead? Okay, Shamima, it's okay. So now coming to reliability. So what was your impression on seeing that first clip of that sixer? What was that? We have shown it to many platforms actually. Maybe those of you who have attended our workshop might be knowing it. Repetition, Anuja, yes. So repetition with, you can say that every time it was a type of shot which he's doing, and it was alternate form of, okay, Shamima is saying alternate form of reliability. So are you saying that, oh, this is not all consistent? Yes, you can say. So reliable means every time he is doing, and he was very much near to the true. It was as near as true. So that's we say a reliability is that it is very near to the true score. And in case of a scale, how do we measure reliability? So the scale score, the scale which you have formed, the score of that scale, because remember we talked about the reflective scale, and we said that the construct is not measurable, and we measure construct through some of the items. So if the item score is very much near to the true score, which is the not known, then we call this as a reliable tool. So now there are various types of reliability, and as you can see here, there is an alternate form of reliability. There is a test, retest reliability. There's a split half reliability. Again, internal consistency or the measurement of the Cronbach alpha, which is again one type of reliability. And then there is a inter-rater reliability. So these are the 5 types of reliability, but generally the most commonly done in our scale is the internal consistency, that is the Cronbach alpha. And we'll discuss that today, but I'll explain the other type of reliability. So coming to the alternate form of reliability, what is the alternate form of reliability? So if from a pool, so like from an initial scale, the people, they have generated like 100 responses, and you have extracted 50 items in your questionnaire. So the rest of the 50 items which you have left, you can apply that to the 2 set of individual, and you can measure the correlation. And remember, in all these reliability and the validity and the factor analysis also, the main stay of measurement is the correlation. And what is a correlation? So correlation is a measurement of when you see the association between the 2 continuous variable, then it is the correlation, general Pearson's correlation. There are other type of correlation also, but it is the R or the Pearson correlation. So if the correlation, if there is a correlation between the score of these 2, it is known as the alternate form of reliability. And the acceptable level of correlation, we take 0.4 to 0.8. That should be the range of the correlation coefficient. Coming to the test-retest reliability. What is the test-retest reliability? Anyone? As the name suggests, same result every time. Result every time or same tool every time. So it is to see the scale whether there is a temporal stability or not. Now, what do you mean by temporal stability? So if I have applied a scale to a medical student now, and maybe I want to see whether during the course of time, maybe 3 months or 4 months, had it got any change, because things are changing very rapidly. I don't know whether the perception or whether the items which I have generated, is it generating the same sort of response or not. So what I'll do, on the same set of individual which I have performed, I'll perform that test with now and maybe after a month. And if I measure the score, and if there is a correlation between these two scores, then it is known as the test-retest reliability. But generally that is not very feasible to do, because why will you, so it's better that even if you do a Cronbach alpha, it will also suggest that all the items, if there are high correlation between the item, it will suggest that it is measuring the same construct. Now, the another type of reliability is the split half reliability. What is a split half reliability? If you divide the questionnaire, like we did yesterday, there was a 51 item, that personality trait was a 51 item. So how will I measure that? I will take the response of 25 questions in one column and 25 questions in another column. And if there is a correlation between these two, then that means there is a split half correlation is there. But there is a problem with the split half. There is a bias with the split half. So there are types of doing this type, which I have said, that is one type, like first half and the second half. But what will be the problem if I do the half like this? Yes, anyone? What will be the problem if I do this split half reliability?
If domains are separated, then some domains, our response will be one in one half, and other domains will be remaining in the other half.
So that maybe I have kept that away so that I can do it later. Means I have arranged domain wise. Then Pavni, power decrease, we may not know which exact half will give the highest correlation. Okay, so what was your feeling when you were filling that questionnaire on personality trait, 51 questions? What did you feel? Can someone unmute and say how he was feeling while filling the form? If you will express that feeling, you will come about that bias. You will come to know.
Felt like some questions are the same, repeating.
No, ma'am, the length of the question, it seemed to be the very lengthy.
Lengthy. So if the question
And
is
the relevance
lengthy,
of the various questions asked.
Okay, relevance of the various questions. Vishwanathan is saying social desirability. That is again one problem. And Anaga is saying repeating. Okay, so those are the issues. Maybe if I talk to you, that is maybe there is, if I want to do a pre-testing. So I will take all these responses from you, like which questions you thought that it is a repeating one. And then I may see and I may again talk to the expert of like deleting one or two. So that is the way of pre-testing, like the answers you people are giving now. Some questions not relevant. Again, that is a respondent pre-testing. You are saying me. So last half spend time is less and fatigue. Yes, very true, Vishwanath. Whenever we give such responses, there are two things. First, if the question is lengthy, you get tired at the end. You are very genuine in responding questions initially, but towards the later half, you may not be so sincere and genuine in answering. First thing. But in responding, initially when you respond in Likert type of scale, it takes a little time. So initial answering in Likert is a little latency. But as you become more, you will be practicing for first 25 questions. So for the next 25 questions, you will definitely be very comfortable in answer such Likert type of questions. So then there is a bias in that bias is again.
The sun is there only.
So that bias is there. Okay, that bias will be there. So this is a split half. So what we do generally, we can do one thing, that all even we can have together, and all odd we can have together. So that will be like a mix of the two, and you will have questions from all the segment, like initial, middle, and later part of the segment. That is one way of checking the split half reliability. Now, the Koteshwar Amma is asking, what is the difference between a split half and alternate form? So alternate form is, split half is done on the 51 item, but alternate form of reliability is like from a pool of questions. Like I said that there were 100 items initially. So you take 50 items which are decided for your questions, and the alternate one which you have not included in your question, you take that tool also and check the correlation. That is the alternate form of reliability. Again, coming to the internal consistency that we are seeing it, and then inter-rater. So inter-rater is the kappa statistics, and we are not covering because for scale, we don't do that, but that is again one type of reliability. So now coming to this again one, so Anaga is, ma'am, in the alternate form of reliability, are we testing with the same participants? So yes, no, we are giving the two tools to the two different set of participants, if I'm correct. Yes, two different set of participants and two different tool, and then we see. And then Vishnu is writing, what is the rule of thumb sample size to calculate the retest reliability? Actually, I said that there are at 2 times we will be doing the reliability. Yes.
If we do the test in 2 separate set of questions and 2 separate set of participants, then how can we correlate?
Yes, I think, no, for first repeat in 2 sets
Yes.
of questions.
In the same set of participants.
Agree. It will be the same set of participants. Yes, it's my bad. I'm sorry. It will be the same because repeatability generally you will do on the same person. Yes. Agree.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, there was another question. I think, can you show me that chat box? Rule of thumb for sample size calculation. So rule of thumb is again reliability. I said that you will check the reliability twice. First time it is a part of your pre-testing. You are checking the reliability that time also. And then your actual, so pre-testing again, we said it is from 12 to 50. Number is from 12 to 50. It ranges. And the actual study, it depends on the sample size. So the number of samples which you have, generally for scale validation, we say if you have to do exploratory factor analysis, it should be the number of items multiplied by 10. There is a range of between 5 to 15, but you can take 10. So if there are 10 items, 100 samples. If there are 20 items, 200. If there are 30 items, 300. Okay. So that will be the actual study. So you will do this reliability twice. First as a part of pre-testing, and second as a part of your actual study when you will apply that tool to the population. Is it okay, Vishnu? Okay. So this you can see here that the person is there and reading. So you all know that the machine has read 61 kg, 60 kg, 59 and 60 kg. So we can say that scale is valid as well as reliable. And here, if the same actual weight is 60, but the weight is like, it is reading 51, 50, but again, we will not say it is reliable because the reliability of scale, it is different in context of the other thing. Reliability of a scale, we always define how much near to is the true score. So the scale score, how much near it is to the true score. So this, we have talked about test, retest, reliability. And again, then what is, how do we measure reliability as an internal consistency? So internal consistency, we measure it statistically, because we ask for measuring the same construct, we are having more than one item. So there are 10, 12 items. And if the correlation between these items are high and correlation, then we can say that all the item is measuring the same construct. And that's how we say that the scale is reliable. That means it will measure the true score, or it will be very near to the true score. So like if you want to measure the anxiety and depression status of students, then you ask this following question, that over the last 2 weeks, were you anxious and depressed? So again, you may answer like yes and no. But again, we have discussed that you should not ask two things together. So over last 2 weeks, if I ask like feeling nervous or anxious, so these are the 4 questions. You can see feeling nervous, anxious or on edge, not being able to stop or control worrying, feeling down, depressed or hopeless, little interest or pleasure in doing things. So these are the scale. 0 is not at all. It is a, you can say 4-point scale. And the responses are from 0 to 3. So not at all is 0. Several days is 1. More than half days 2. And nearly every day is 3. Okay. So these are the responses. Now see this table. And this is a PHQ-4 scale. You can see these questions are the PHQ-4. What is a PHQ-4? Patient Health Questionnaire. There was a PHQ-9 on which you will be doing the reliability today in the breakout room. And PHQ-4 is, it is a shortened version of PHQ-9. And the questions are like feeling nervous, anxious or on edge. And the second question is not being able to stop or control worrying, feeling down, depressed or hopeless, or little interest or pleasure in doing things. So there are 7 respondents. Now see the table and find out like which respondent answer is consistent on this PHQ-4 scale. Okay, so there's item 1, item 2, item 3, and item 4. So respondent 1 has answered, given the score of 0, 1, 1, and 0. Then respondent 2, you can see respondent 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So please type in the chat box 4 and 5. So 4 and 5, they were consistent. Very true. Yes. What is the problem with the respondent 2? What is the problem with the respondent 2? And what is the problem with respondent 6? 2 and 6. Extreme responses. Yes, if you see this, so 0 says not at all. So if the person is feeling nervous, anxious or on edge, not at all, or several days, then how it can be like 0 and 3 cannot be there. So you can see he has on one item, first item, he has said not at all. And on the second item, which is the not being to stop or control worrying, he has said 3. That means nearly every day. So these are the opposite responses, extreme responses. So you can see that the person is not like answering, not reading and answering, maybe just answering, and they are the extreme responses. So these, if you find such responses, definitely this will affect your overall scale, as it will have, mean will deviate. In one item, it will have a larger mean, and in the other, it will have a lower mean. So these are the extreme responses. So now we were discussing regarding the number of items and the reliability. So there is a relationship between the number of items and reliability. So initially what is there, we all say that if it is a general rule, if you want to increase the reliability of your questionnaire or your scale, you should increase the number of items. Because what do we mean by that? For one construct, you have more than 3, 4, 5 items. That means your scale is reliable. So there is a positive but non-linear correlation between the number of items and reliability. So if you increase the number of items from 2 to 10, there is a rapid increase in reliability. Then there is a steady increase from 11 to 30. And after 40, it is a kind of a plateau. So that's how the relationship between the number of items and the reliability of the scale. So up till 40, definitely there is a increase in the reliability. So there are some basic things about reliability. So it is very important when we want to measure a latent variable. And from yesterday's session, we know what is a latent variable. A latent variable is an underlying construct which is not directly observable. So we measure this latent variable through formulating several items. The second is, it is very important because it measures the reliability of your scale and the consistency of your survey or your research. And it is measured by the Cronbach alpha. And Cronbach alpha, it is most commonly done for the Likert type of questions. And Likert type, we have also explained and discussed like what is the advantage of using Likert type of scale over the binary scale, because it gives you a response in a continuous form. And the efficiency is more, and you can test a research question in less number of sample size as compared if your scale is binary. And you can perform a lot of other analysis if you take a Likert type of questions. And most of the time we say that things are not black and white. Like if you ask any statement, I cannot say that, this statement is right or wrong. That's why there is a shade of all those agreement and disagreement. So strongly agree or maybe slightly agree and not agree. So yes, Rupali, I'll come to this Cronbach alpha. I'm just telling you a little bit of theory, and we'll see in the while doing the this reliability analysis in JAMOVI, what is this Cronbach alpha? So basically this Cronbach alpha is a measure of consistency or the reliability, and there is a formula for this Cronbach alpha, but I'm not going into the detail of that statistical calculation of this Cronbach alpha, because basically these days all the software, it gives you automatically how calculated Cronbach alpha. So your role will be to interpret that Cronbach alpha. So Cronbach alpha is a measure, and its value shows whether your scale is reliable or not. So these reliability estimates, we always discuss that whatever observed value or the scale, it is there, the scale score, it will be equal to your true scale, means your true latent score plus measurement error. So it is a content, this reliability is also for, it reveals the content sampling. So what is content sampling? Out of the total item, you have picked up something. So it is again evaluated by the internal consistency. Then there is a changes in respondent. If there are changes in respondents, then it is measured by the retest reliability, which we have seen. And if there is there any difference between raters, that we measure by the inter-rater reliability. So Dr. Nitin is asking, can we measure reliability for questionnaire in which items have answer yes and no? Yes, we have got something known as the KM20. I don't, even for this, that is the best to measure the reliability if it is in binary. KM20 or that full form, I will have to check. It is a Cronbach can also be applied, but for binary reliability, it is the KM20. We may take it if time permits. But ultimately, most of the thing is focused, or maybe Dr. Nitin, we can discuss separately also about testing the reliability in case of a binary scale. Now coming to internal consistency or reliability, again continuing with the same thing. So it measures the extent to which the questionnaires items are interrelated. There is a consistency because if all the items are measuring the same construct or same concept, then definitely your Cronbach alpha value will be the high. And Cronbach alpha, it is known as the coefficient alpha. It ranges from 0 to 1. And if the value of Cronbach alpha is 0, that means it has got no internal consistency. And if the value of Cronbach alpha is 1, that means it is a perfect internal consistency. But at least every scale should have minimum of 0.7 Cronbach alpha. Now, what do we mean by this 0.7? 0.7 means the 70% of this item is reflecting the underlying construct, and rest 30% is due to the error. Remember, we discussed yesterday also, in the reflective scale, there is a construct and which is a latent variable, then there are items, and then there is an error. So error is associated with each item uniquely. And this construct is affecting all the items communally, means together, which is shared. So 0.7 Cronbach alpha means that 70% of the variance or the change in the, it can be explained by this item. Rest 30% of this change in the item is either due to the error or due to some other construct. Remember, we discussed this yesterday also, that there is always some unexplained part in that item, which may be due to the error or which may be due to any other construct, which we are not aware right now. So basic requirement, like it should be a continuous variable, and it is most commonly done for Likert. It can be done, like Dr. Nitin was asking, for the two responses also, but the preferred one, the literature says that it can be done, but the preferred one is the KM20, which we do for the binary responses. So now coming to the unidimensional versus multidimensional scale. So what do we mean by the unidimensional scale? So we all know from the yesterday discussion that the latent variable or construct are same. The variables are known as items. And when you group all these items together, these are known as scale. Whenever you have got a scale, it can have one dimension or it can have multi-dimension. And how to know about the dimension? It is about for the factor. Through the factor analysis, we come to know regarding the underlying dimension of a score. So like PHQ-9, it has got a single dimension. But if you take this score, this DAS scale, which is the depression anxiety scale, that has got more than one dimension. So what is the difference between the unidimensional and multidimensional? In case of a multidimensional, Cronbach alpha is for each dimension. If your scale has got more than one dimension, then you should not go for overall Cronbach alpha. We will see that. You should move items separately, belonging to one domain or belonging to one dimension. Like, say, for example, WHO quality of life. If it has got 4 dimensions, then you will have 4 Cronbach alpha, one each for each dimension. There cannot be an overall alpha for whole WHO QL bref. So number of dimensions equal to number of Cronbach alpha, and you will have to perform more than one reliability analysis. And it is done when the questionnaire contains multiple scale or multiple dimension. Coming to the unidimensional, when your questionnaire has got only one dimension, like PHQ-9 or any other scale, like PHQ-4, then you need to do only one Cronbach alpha or one reliability analysis, and then there will be value of 1 Cronbach alpha. Now, what is participants were asking regarding Cronbach alpha, what is a Cronbach alpha? Cronbach alpha is a function of length of questionnaire. And how right I am making this statement? Can you recall that we have just discussed that as you increase the number of items, your reliability increases. So it is not in a linear form. Initially, there is a sharp increase if you increase the items from 2 to 8. Then there is again a steady increase from 10 to 30 and 30 to 40. But after 40, there is a kind of plateau. So this statement says that this Cronbach alpha is a function of length of questionnaire. More lengthy your questionnaire, your Cronbach alpha is going to be high. And again, the same thing, it increases with the increase in number of items, and it will increase with increase in variability of each items. So if the item is getting variable response, and if the items, and we check this by the variance also, so it will increase with the increasing variance. And if you include more related items, then you increase. Like if you have devised a question, maybe a tool where the number of questions are 20, and if it is coming, the reliability is coming low. If you increase the number of items to 30 or 40, then which should be related, then your reliability will increase. So this is how we understand the concept of Cronbach alpha. And very high alpha value suggests that some items are redundant. If the value of Cronbach alpha is more than 0.9, that means 2 questions are measuring the same thing. So we will discuss this concept of redundancy also. But in scale, redundancy is good. Like if 2 items are measuring the same construct, there's no problem, it is good. So Cronbach alpha is the property of response of specific sample of respondent. Now, can you tell me this Cronbach alpha is a property of scale or it is a property of respondents? Like if I did one study using PHQ-9 in my population, so will this Cronbach, whatever Cronbach alpha I have calculated, will it be the same if the same study is done in Kerala or in Andhra Pradesh?
No, ma'am.
No. Why that is so?
Because the internal consistency will change. The Cronbach's alpha will change from population to population.
Yes.
As they will behave differently.
Yes. So it is respondent driven actually. If the respondent, you will change the respondent or the population, the Cronbach alpha will change. That's why we say that you need to calculate Cronbach alpha every time. Every time means it is like if even in your population also, if you have selected some other group, then also you need to calculate it. So it is a property of response from a specific sample of respondents, and it never reflects the item reliability. Item reliability means it is basically a scale reliability. And it is unique for each sample. So it is not an estimate of reliability for a questionnaire under all circumstances. It is not like that if the questionnaire has got a reliability of 0.8, likewise we discussed, and Alpna also said that it is respondent driven. So the value of Cronbach alpha will be unique for each sample, and it will vary from sample to sample. So hence it should be estimated each time the questionnaire is administered. Coming to the interpretation, how do we interpret the value of Cronbach alpha? So if the value of Cronbach alpha is more than equal to 0.9, it is an excellently reliable scale. If it is 0.8, in between 0.8 to 0.9, we say it good. But scale to be acceptable, it should be at least 0.7. So 0.7 and more is acceptable. Less than 0.7 is not acceptable at all. So these are the various categories of. Now in SPSS, you will have this standardized Cronbach alpha, which you don't get in JAMOVI. So I'm skipping this. Now in JAMOVI, we'll see all these once we perform the analysis. I'm just explaining you the theoretical part. So there is something known as the corrected item total correlation. So what is this corrected item total correlation? So in the analysis, you will see that if you like measure the Pearson correlation between the specific item and the sum of the other item, that is the corrected Pearson correlation. So if the items are all measuring the same underlying construct, the correlation coefficient should be high. And we expect that it should be greater than 0.3. If the correlation corrected item total correlation is less than 0.3, consider removing that item from your scale, because then your scale is not reliable. So, and then there is something known as the squared multiple correlation. Maybe this will not come. So to reduce the burden on respondent, should we use the brief version of scale? So we have discussed this, that there should be a balance between the respondent burden and the loss of reliability. Now, what is the mean score of total scale? So mean score of total scale tells us about the most of the responses in all items in a scale. We'll see that. So a scale if a scale has got 12 items and all the items are like on a 5-point scale, where 1 says that it is strongly disagree, 2 say disagree, 3 is neutral, 4 agree, and 5 strongly agree. So if the mean scale score is 4.1, so what can we say? 4 is for agree. Here you can say the 4 is for agree. So most of the responses on the scale are towards the agree side. That we mean by the mean scale score. So again, to summarize, the validity is about the scale, but the reliability is about the respondent. So I will show you on the JAMOVI how to do this. So all of you, are you aware regarding the JAMOVI software? Then I will, if not, then I will brief a little bit of that software. So Pavni, Nitin, no. Okay, then let me briefly explain. Have you downloaded? Yes, Shruti Sunduri, you people know. So for people who don't know, I'll tell you, have you downloaded JAMOVI? Dr. Nitin and all who said no in the beginning, can you show me the chat box, Dr. Shamshad, please? Yes, Pavni, Nitin, Dr. Nitin, and I think only, no, yes, okay. Dr. Nitin, have you downloaded it? Okay, Ankita, that's good. So if you've downloaded, you will not have any problem. So like JAMOVI, if you have to open JAMOVI, you just go on this window tab, type JAMOVI, and JAMOVI will open. If you will open JAMOVI, you can these 4 horizontal line. Can you see here? This one. This one. Here you have to press this and click on open. Once you click on open, it will ask for a path and then you can browse. You can browse the data and you can select the data. And the beauty of JAMOVI is it imports all type of data. So you can see that if you click on this drop-down menu, it can import JAMOVI file, CSV file, open document, Excel. Generally, we have data in Excel form. It can import data file also, SAS, JASP. So it can import all these data file. So I will click on import and this will now come. So if you see the options, there is an option of variable. So you can see here that this is a PHQ-12. This is the data of PHQ-12 questionnaire. I'll show, sorry, GHQ-12, and I'll show you the GHQ-12 questionnaire also. So can you see this short general health questionnaire, GHQ-12? And these are the 12 questions. Been able to concentrate on what you are doing, lost much sleep over worry, felt you were playing a useful part in things, felt capable of making decision about things. Now, one question from the participant. Can you see these wordings of the questionnaire? In a single question, how many words are there? Can you all count and say the maximum number of words in a single question?
8 around. 8.
8 around. 8. Yes. So you can see that whenever you form a questionnaire, when you read that book of Norman and that book of Robert, they say that whatever question we should form, it should be like you are administering it to the 5th to 7th grade. 5th to 7th grade means if you are applying it to the general population, a 5th pass person can answer that, read and answer that. Similarly, and 5th to 7th. So that's the literacy or the number of schooling, number of years of schooling we should keep in mind whenever we form a questionnaire. And that should not be more than 14 words. They have said that 14 words and 18 syllables. And you can see here it is 8. So maximum, like maybe this is a very much validated, but in your context, if you are any questionnaire, if you are forming, the wordings should be restricted to 14 to 18 words and maybe 18 to 24 syllables, maximum of that, not more than that. So you should not have too lengthy questions and word limit you should, and you should mention also in your manuscript. Although you will attach the annexure also of your questionnaire, but as a part of the methodology, you can mention that you have selected the items or the questions and the maximum wording of the question was like maybe 8, 10, 12, whatever, the mean words or the range of the those words, number of words count in your questionnaire that you should mention. That will show that you are sensitive towards that number of words also, because that is an important part in making a questionnaire, which I think I forgot this to discuss yesterday. So that's why I thought I'll discuss it today. So this is these are the questions and you can see the responses, and this is on a 4-point Likert scale, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And on these questions, I have taken the response. Maybe these are the response. We have taken the response from the medical students. Just as a part of this workshop, we took the response on the medical students. And last time we did it on the STARS questionnaire, that is the statistical anxiety, and which you did yesterday, and you will be doing as a part of the breakout room today on that questionnaire, which you people have filled as a response. So if you can see here that there is a section of variable, then there is a data. This is the analyze, which you have all the options here, and this is the edit. So if I go to the analyze, you can see that I have got more options here like major, SCM, JPower, survival. So I have installed these modules. That's why it is there in my JAMOVI. Maybe the people who have installed JAMOVI for the first time, it may not be there as a menu. So you can go to this plus sign. Can you see this plus sign? If you click this plus sign, then there is a JAMOVI library. So you can click on that JAMOVI library and you can see there are various options which are available. So depending on your need, like we were planning to have this structural equation model next time. Maybe this time we are not covering that. So if I need that, I will install that also. So depend, like if you want to do a meta-analysis, anything, power analysis, these you can install and then you can perform the analysis. So this plus sign is for the analysis, installation of the additional modules of the analysis. Otherwise, basic will have these many options which you will get in your application, which you have downloaded. And if you click on this 3 dot, you can see that these are the number formats, decimal, number of decimal point result which you want, the plot, what should be the plot of the theme, and like that. So in JAMOVI, you have on the same interface, you have got the data as well as you have got this output window. Whereas in SPSS, these two views are different. You have one output window and one as a data window. But in the same window, you have both these two. So how will you, so coming to the variables, if you click the variable, any variable, so if I click this question, this data variable, what is the type of variable, whether it is nominal or ordinal. So right now it is showing, I will make it as a continuous because these are the continuous. Again, I'll change the other also as a continuous, because when you import, you might find that you need to change this measurement type. So you can make it as an ordinal or as a continuous also. So I have to change all the variable, and then you can say the levels also. 6. So once you import it from Excel, you may need to do these minor changes in JAMOVI. Or what you can do, like I am doing it one by one, you can select each variable together and you can do it like continuous. So all variables will be continuous now. Again, deselect it because uncheck this, otherwise these will be selected. So now coming to the data, if you see this is the data. So I have performed, maybe what I'll do, double click this, I'll move everything back because I was just checking. So I'll remove all this. Everything will go. If I move all these command back, then this won't be there. So when you open your JAMOVI, it is like this. Nothing is there. Then what you do, you see this is the option of analyze, and then you can see this is the explore button. So explore means it is the descriptive and few other scatter plot. This is for the t-test, like independent sample t-test, paired sample t-test. Okay, so like Earth scale, Dr. Rajesh, so Dr. Shamshad has answered that. You can have ordinal or continuous, because generally it takes it as a continuous, but again, you can, if you wish me, the true will be ordinal. So now if I have to do that, how will I do that? Go to variable.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Can we do this exercise on the SPSS also?
Yes, you can do that.
Okay.
In SPSS also, you can do that. If you
Okay.
wish, we'll show you on the SPSS also.
Thank you, ma'am.
Since SPSS, it is not there with everyone, so that's why maybe we, because you need to purchase it and JAMOVI is free, that's why we planned, but again, you can do it on SPSS. See, basic is same, whether
Okay,
you
ma'am.
use it on JAMOVI or you use it. So the basic concept and interpretation will be same.
Okay,
Okay.
ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
In JASP also. So, but again, if you wish, I will show it on SPSS also.
Roger, ma'am.
Okay. Maybe let other people go to the breakout room and then I'll show it in the main room on the SPSS for this practice session.
Okay.
So this is the t-test option. This is the ANOVA. You can see the various option of ANOVA. This is the regression. In frequency, you can see this is the association test. Now for these 2 days workshop, like today's and tomorrow, we'll use this option of factor. So factor, you can see there are 4 options here: reliability analysis, which is the scale analysis. And under the data reduction or the domain reduction component, there is a principal component analysis, exploratory factor analysis, and confirmatory factor analysis. So right now, this is the reliability. So I have clicked this. So that's where reliability analysis is here. So now you can see there are 2 options here. There's a scale statistics. So what do you mean by scale? Someone, what is the difference between the item and scale? Yes.
To keep the item in their gradings, ma'am.
Pardon?
To keep the items according to grade.
items according to grade. Okay. Yes. Anyone else would like to add?
Item is
Ma'am,
the
the
number,
scale,
individual question.
sorry. Ma'am,
Yes.
the scale Cronbach alpha will tell us the reliability of the total scale, and the item statistics, as we can see in the first option, Cronbach alpha, if the item is dropped. If a particular item is dropped, let's say question 1 is dropped, then what will be the reliability of the remaining 11 questions?
Okay, agree. But my question is again, what do you mean by item and what do you mean by scale? So one person has answered that each question is item. Agree?
Yes, ma'am.
What is a scale?
The whole questionnaire.
Yes. So the whole aggregate of that 12 question is a scale. And each question is an item. So if you are clear, then we'll go ahead. Now I'll go first on. So I think there is some problem with that response thing or what? Okay, if you wish, I'll change that because I think that has created some confusion. So under this variable, I have selected all these variables and I will go to this edit. And instead of continuous, I will select this as the ordinal. Now, are you happy? So now I have made it to ordinal. See, ordinal, again, like Dr. Shamshad has written, this ordinal, it doesn't matter actually because larger, if your item, the response scale is 5 and more than 5, then it behaves as a continuous one. So even if you select ordinal, and now I have selected ordinal. Okay. So are you happy now? All of you who had this confusion of ordinal and continuous. So you are right in your sense. I should have done the ordinal. So now I did it. So now come to analyze and then factor reliability. So it is already clicked here. And then, and you will see here, in this items also, even if you treat it like a continuous or treat it like a scale, can you see the icon here? It is for both the ordinal and scale. This stacked bar with increasing size is for ordinal, and this yellow small scale is for scale variable. So you can enter both, the result will not change. So this is about the scale statistics and this is about the item statistics. So I am assuming it as a unidimensional scale. So had it been a multidimensional scale, how I should have done? Yes, anyone? Unmute and answer, please.
Each dimension, items belonging to each dimension to be selected together.
Yes. So like maybe let's assume that it is 2-dimensional. First 6 in one dimension and 6 to 12 in another, 7 to 12 in another dimension. Then I will have moved only those questions. But since I am assuming it as a unidimensional, so I will select these. Press shift, select. Sorry, it didn't get selected. So instead of shift pressing this is not the correct one. Let me do it again. I have shifted this back and first question and then the last response. This one. So now if you see the Cronbach alpha, the moment you enter the question, the value of Cronbach alpha will appear here. Okay, age is also gone. That's why, see, it is writing age is incompleted, so it will not come. Sorry, so I have moved age back here. So this is from question number 1 to question number 12. So what is the value of Cronbach alpha here? 0.88. What is the interpretation? Yes. Any one of you? What is the interpretation?
It is the Cronbach alpha is good. That means the scale is very
yes. So what is the cutoff of below which it should not be there?
0.7.
0.7. Agree. 0.7. It should not be 0.6. 0.7. Agree. So now can you see something which is the McDonald omega? What is this McDonald omega? I click this also. So you can see that value of McDonald omega is 0.01 higher. So this McDonald omega is a better measure of reliability as compared to Cronbach alpha, because Cronbach alpha is the dimension dependent. But McDonald omega, even if it is scale is single or multi-dimensional, it will give the value. So if you are using McDonald omega, then you can have the whole scale as a this thing. And there are other problems also with the Cronbach alpha, which I am not discussing. But just remember, either you report both, or if you wish to report only one, then you can report McDonald omega also. Then coming to the mean. So if you see the mean score and standard deviation, I'm only clicking the scale statistics now. So mean is 1.05. What do you mean by 1.05 mean? Yes, anyone? What do you mean by mean score of 1.05 of the scale? What is the interpretation?
Majority of the participants have responded
On
as
an
one.
average scale, the response is 1.
So one is like this was 0, this was 1.
This is same.
Yeah, so same as usual or no more than usual. So most of the participants, so it is like you can see all those questions. So responses are like same as usual. So that the original value of that scale suggests that. And this is the standard deviation. Now coming to the item statistics, I want individual item statistics also. So this gives the Cronbach alpha or n omega if item deleted, then mean of that item, standard deviation of that item. And this was the item rest correlation which I was talking. So see, once you start clicking it, it will start appearing. And if you uncheck this, everything will go back. So you can you can keep on moving the variable and clicking the options of the analytic window. You can see here that what will be, this is an overall table. Now, what all we see here, there are 12 questions. The first column is showing you the mean value. The second is the standard deviation. The third is the item rest correlation. So what was the value of item? What is the item rest correlation? It is the correlation between that individual item and rest of the score. Like for 1, it is the correlation between the question number 1 and rest from 2 to 12. Similarly, for question number 2, it is the correlation between the question number 2 and the rest of this. So if you see this, like what was the cutoff of this item rest correlation below which you should delete that item? Okay, is writing, explain omega again. Okay, I'm explaining it once again. Let me have this answer. Someone was saying something. So we discussed a cutoff of 0.3. So if which of these item rest correlation has got mean stands for, this is the mean of this question. The overall number of participants, if you see there are 166 participants. So it is a mean of 166 participants for question number 1, item number 1. Okay. And overall mean stands for the overall scale mean. Yes, so 0.3. So which question should, if I take a call to delete one item which are not very reliable, which item should I delete from this list?
Question 3.
Question 3. So what is the value of item rest correlation in question 3?
0.29.
Yes, very, very true. So from this, you can see, again, you have to see one other column. So overall, Cronbach alpha is 0.88 or 0.89. And if you remove this item, what happens to Cronbach alpha? So by removing any item, if your Cronbach alpha is increasing, then you should remove that. So if you can see that if you are removing this item, because this column, these two columns, they will give you the Cronbach alpha and omega, McDonald omega, if that particular item is dropped. So you can see there is no much of gain, except for this, it is increasing 0.89. Otherwise, if you are dropping any other item, the Cronbach alpha is decreasing. So that's why this is the option for removing or not removing. Similarly, McDonald omega also you can see, and Alpna was asking the interpretation of McDonald omega. So you just remember that McDonald omega is also like a Cronbach alpha only, but it is a better measure of reliability as it is not a dimension dependent. In case of McDonald omega, even if many times you don't know about the dimension, how many dimension your scale will have. So you can report the McDonald omega, because then if you report alpha, it will give you a very high value of alpha if the underlying is a multi-dimension and if you consider it as a single dimension. Okay. And then Vadehi is asking for removal item rest correlation cutoff 0.3. Yes, Vadehi, you are right. So again, it is very borderline, 0.29. And even if you remove this item, your item drop, your Cronbach alpha is improving 0.01. And if you see the omega, it is not improving at all. So you may decide not to delete it. But if it is 0.2 and if here the McDonald or Cronbach alpha is improving, then you may take a call to delete this item in your pre-testing, once you are doing this pre-testing. Okay. Is it okay up till this point? Have you understood the overall? And this is the mean and standard deviation. So mean of 1.25 again will suggest that overall participant have given it like it was same as before. What was there? The value of mean 1 in the original response list. And then coming to this option, there is a heat map. So this is the correlation heat map. And this will give you, like, the very green is the, just as a color mapping, it gives you the shades, like if it is very high, it will be dark green. And then if it is very low, it will be like towards whitish. This is also one graphical representation of these correlation coefficient. And then you can see there is an option of a reverse scale item. So if any item, if you find a negative correlation, many times we form a scale and we don't know whether we should have reverse scaled item. Do you understand what do we mean by reverse scaling? So if your favorable response is scoring high, and if you have asked any question which is negatively worded, then in that case, you will have to reverse scale. That means you will have to start with the highly agree with the 0 point. So that's, if you, in SPSS, you have to do it separately. But here in JAMOVI, if you just click this and go to this reverse scale, you can see that, correlation. If I have put this Q here, you can see these all has become negative. But since in the original questionnaire, so it detects this correlation heat map, it detects whether you need to negatively or reverse scale, do the reverse scaling of your item or not. So again, to repeat, go to this JAMOVI, open, click open, browse the data, open, give it like a path from where you have to browse your data. Then the data will be opened. These are the options. You have to change the variable. So go to this variable, select all these variables, and maybe if it is showing ordinal, means nominal or continuous, you may change it to ordinal. Then again come to data and perform all these analysis. Okay. So if it is okay, then please explain how we decide to choose reverse scaling. No, actually, we don't have to do the reverse scaling now. If you're like, let's, for example, I said that by mistake in the original questionnaire, I did not, one of my question I forgot, that was in a negative tone, and I have not done that. So if my question number 1, it started with the opposite, like if you come to this question number 1, it says that have been able to concentrate on what we are doing. And here you have started like this, like much less than usual at first place. And you have given it as a 0 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, then it will show you the negative correlation. So if on the correlation heat map, and that will be shown on the correlation heat map, that if the color of these correlation coefficients are red or towards that red shade, that means one of your item in the scale is not on the similar coding format, and you need to reverse scale that. Have you understood, Dr. Nitin?
Yes, Dr. Pragya.
Okay. Thank you. So then we will go to the breakout room. In the breakout room, there are in the data file which is shared to you people, there are two data. One is of PHQ-9 and the other is of the Big Five personality. So one is the, so you need to do the reliability analysis on both these two data. And Big Five data, you can do the overall analysis because it is not clear to you now, like they are, what are the dimensions, underlying dimensions. So you take out a single, consider these as a unidimension scale, and you calculate the this thing. In this Big Five data, okay, in Big Five data, you will see that that reverse coding concept. So maybe it will discussed in the breakout room. And isme kya, one item only. Okay. So you don't, that they will see in the breakout room. The mentor will see in the breakout room. You will be facilitated by the respective mentors. And Dr. Vishwanath is asking, what if the data is non-normal? Still we use the Pearson's correlation. That will discuss. Yes, Pearson's correlation we will use because it consider that the data is normal. That's why we stress on the adequate sample size. If your sample size is adequate, ideally you should check for the normality. That is one of the underlying principle as well. You should check it, but if the sample size is adequate, generally the data, that's why we say that at least have like 200, 250, 300 data. Okay. So then it will be, because it works on the principle of Pearson's correlation, the underlying this thing, the, all the scale measurements. So Dr. Akanksha, no, Dr. Naveen. Dr. Naveen, can you please open the breakout room?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Are the instructions clear to the mentor? So kindly get it done from the participants. Even like, and all of you, please share your screen and demonstrate it there. Otherwise, you will not learn and there will be fear. That statistical anxiety will be there. If at all it is there. If not, we are very happy. Which file?
What file is there?
Okay, there is a Word file also, which has been shared with you people. That we have shared that on the WhatsApp also.